We got explaining every series currently in Shonen Jump. Now, I did want to watch this because this is for the manga, and I got lackluster manga. So this might put me on to some upcoming manga that might get animated in the future that I should be looking out for. So
Imagine
so I don't have to listen to people when they say this manga fire. I know. Well, basically, I'm listening to this nigga tell me the manga fire, so my point made no sense. But regardless,
weekly Shonen Jump as a bookshelf. Why? Well, manga are books, and so it's a pretty apt way of showcasing the magazine and at least some of its history at a glance. And also, if I'm being honest, I wanted to flex the blender modeling I've been learning, but this also gives us a quick way to see
W blender modeling, because that hoe do look good.
Distribution of manga that, at least at the time of writing this, are currently serialized. As you can see, it's quite top-heavy, with all but 2 series having started in the magazine since just 2020.
Damn.
I also feel the need to stress at the time of writing because, let's face it, it's
Bro, it's crazy, bro. We already almost got all of these, bro. We Burn the Witch, not fully, but we got a little bit of Burn the Witch. Sakamoto Days, we got that. I have no idea what's next to Sakamoto Days. Witch Watch, we got that. Blue Box, we got that. No idea what next to Blue Box. Ruri Dragon, I know about it, but we don't got it. Does that say Kill Bill? I don't know what that say. Those last 2 we don't got. But it's crazy that we got like half of those already.
Stress at the time of writing because, let's face it, it's Jump. At any point, a handful of these series are fighting for their lives, and there is a decent chance between the time I'm writing.
Hold on, just a quick glance. We know about Kagurabachi. What else we got up here? Star of Beethoven, Embers.
A handful of these.
That one don't got no English writing on it. Neither does that one. Neither does that one. Neither does that one. Neither does that one. And we got Astro Royale. Astro Royale, that dead ass looked like the nigga that made Tokyo Revengers. Is that the same? That gotta be the same manga, cause that looked like a nigga straight off of Tokyo Revengers. Dead ass.
Chance between the time.
And then I have, I don't even know what that one is.
I'm writing anime.
But this one next to Astro Royale, that one looked kind of clean. That looked like something I could fuck with.
Editing, and posting this, that this lineup will be...
Bro, that nigga dead ass look like a nigga from Tokyo Revengers. I cannot get that shit out of my head. That gotta be the nigga that made Tokyo Revengers.
That's just
that
reality, and also why we're going to be going over
Revengers.
Things in a fairly broad sense, especially for those series that aren't as likely to be around in the coming months, let alone coming year. But starting off things on the bottom shelf, you've got the old, reliable One Piece. And yeah, it's One Piece. Any superlatives just feel kind
of... How much longer do we got on One Piece? I know it's coming to an end, but like... What, like maybe like 1-2 more years?
Pointless, because what can you say that hasn't already been said? It's still trucking along since it debuted in 1997, and it's one of only 2 series keeping this magazine tethered to the previous millennium. Does that matter? No, but it felt cool to say. It's obviously got a long and storied history with more than 100 volumes, and we cannot nor will not go over all of it here. Like, I know it, you know it, and if you've read it, you probably love it. Regardless, it will no doubt be a very surreal moment when the day finally comes where it no longer graces the pages of Jump.
That's gonna be crazy, bro.
And given
just remember everything you seen when like Akira Toriyama passed away. Like, I feel like we're gonna get that type of reaction when One Piece stops being serialized. Like, I don't know if that's crazy to say, but I feel like that's the type of reaction the internet gonna have.
Modern makeup of the magazine and just manga trends in general, I don't think we're gonna see
especially if it has a great ending. We're gonna got straight One Piece shit on our timeline for 3 months straight.
The series run for anywhere near this long. It's a living relic of a bygone era, and mangaka just are no longer asked to have their series continue on for as long as possible. But go ahead, place your bets on when One Piece will finally be finished in the comments. I'm curious to see what your answers are going to be.
Like 2
One
more
level
years.
Up on the bookshelf, though, we have that other late 90s anchor, still technically in the magazine, the also iconic Hunter x Hunter. Sure, it's had its issues with hiatuses throughout the years, but relatively speaking, we've actually gotten quite a number of chapters recently. I'm sure people would always love more.
I was gonna say, I know he started writing again. I know he started writing again, so I mean, we might be coming up on the end of Hunter x Hunter soon. I don't know exactly where Hunter x Hunter is at, but I know like He's pretty deep
like
in.
fans of Hunter x Hunter are getting a more reliable release schedule than a Song of Ice and Fire fans. Don't get mad at me, like it or not, it's just
Look at my goal right there.
Actually true. But obviously fans are willing to wait any amount of time for new chapters, and if anything, the enthusiasm only grows in the interim.
Dang,
sure,
they got my goat on all these titles. Well, what are these book covers, manga covers?
To begin with, but you can look to more modern examples like World Trigger or Rudy Dragon to show that fans can be willing to wait if the story is good enough.
World Trigger, that's my goat. Niggas don't know about World Trigger, bruh. I might have to tap into the manga, bruh, because that anime is taking abysmally long to come out.
I think,
and it's handled by Toei, so it's like I don't even really respect it. It's solid, but like if World Trigger had like an actual good animation studio on it, oh my god, that would be a hit.
There's a lesson to be learned there. Moving up yet again, we have some series that are no longer in Jump, but only making a 4-level shelf felt a little underwhelming, so I thought I'd include some defining series from the early 2000s.
What the heck is iShield 21? I never heard of that. Deadass.
Ones that made waves in Japan and also internationally. You've of course got Naruto and Bleach to round out the big three, alongside One Piece, and then some staples of the respective genres with Death Note, iShield 21, and Gintama. All of which have ripples that can be seen
it's
up
crazy.
through and
iShield 21 is the only one that I haven't heard of. That whole must have been a hit in Japan. Deadass. It had to be a hit in Japan.
Modern series. These are the stories that some mangaka in Jump right now probably read growing up. So if you want to understand modern Jump, I think it makes sense to look at what influenced their creators. Speaking of which, we move up to more recent series where you can see some examples of those parallels and influences, with I suppose Gintama to Demon Slayer being the exception. But what also makes this shelf of note is that these are all series that have left Jump since the start of the decade. That said, we are in 2025, so
crazy.
The decade is already almost halfway gone, but you still have some big exits throughout, with Haikyuu.
Like, was it not just the other day that these hoes came out, bro? Time is moving, bro. Time is moving.
Demon Slayer and The Promised Neverland all leaving in 2020, and then 2 juggernauts in their own right, JJK and MHA, leaving towards the end of 2024. Now, most of these series, of course, still have adaptations coming out and spin-offs and whatnot. It's not like they just up and evaporated and are completely gone in terms of revenue. But much like with the previous shelf, it's important to look at what is left Jump because it'll inform what we're looking at with the rest of the current roster. So that brings us to our top shelves, and in chronological order, right to left, the series that make up the bulk of present-day Shounen Jump. But we should address the 2 series that I'd say have an asterisk attached at first. Burn the Witch and Rudy Dragon. The former was a one-shot that then got turned into a 1-volume story.
Oh, please. Please, Ty, please, Ty Kubo, bro. Please drop some more Burn the Witch, bro. I am begging, bro. I'm begging. I love me some Burn the Witch, bro.
That's ultimately connected to the Bleach universe, with it also being illustrated and written by Tite Kubo. And while a follow-up has been kind of soft announced, the first bit did come out nearly 5 years ago. I'm sure there's no pressure on Kubo to deliver a second part sooner than he's ready or wants to, but Bleach itself is kind of riding a new wave of popularity with the 1000-Year Blood War anime, so maybe we'll see it by the time that wraps up.
Convert that to Burn the Witch,
series
please.
In its own right, taking place in a different corner of Bleach's world, and it's got an anime adaptation already, so the enthusiasm for both...
Look, we can't really call that an anime adaptation. It was like 2 episodes, bro. I need like a full season, deadass. Deadass. I won't be happy till I get a full season of Burn the Witch, bro. Deadass.
Inside and outside Japan, I think is there. And I have it on the shelf because despite it not having a chapter since 2020, everywhere I can find still has it listed as part of Jump's current roster, even if it isn't physically taking up space in the magazine. And Rudy Dragon is kind of in a similar boat. Originally a Jump serialization starting in 2022, the manga went on an almost immediate hiatus due to mangaka Masaoki Shindo's health, which I'm sure sucked for all parties.
Like, I don't really know about Rudy Dragon, but like from what I hear, a lot of people fuck with this manga. Like a lot. Like it's super popular.
Involved because Rudy was just this immediate hit for the magazine. It was the best-selling first volume of a Jump series since My Hero Academia.
Like deadass. I don't know a lot about manga, but there's a couple manga that I hear about, and that's how you know it's a banger. If I hear about it and I don't look at manga shit at all, like Rudy Dragon, I heard about that shit. Kagurabachi, I heard about it. Like those are just manga that took over that took over like the internet, where if you were just in the anime space, you heard about that shit.
Academia almost 8 years prior. But after almost 2 years, it was able to resume and the manga transferred to Shonen Jump Plus and Jump's digital version of the magazine, which are technically two separate things. Likewise, the series now runs on a consistent bi-weekly schedule, which I think was ultimately the reason for the move. Jump in the present day doesn't have an issue with mangaka taking breaks necessarily, but knowing it'll be consistently in only half the issues of the magazine any given year, it just makes more sense to move it over to the digital side of things and free up space for other series that are going to be able to run week to week. But the series is enjoyable. It's a supernatural slice of life about a girl who wakes up with dragon powers and then proceeds to battle the social anxiety that comes with the sudden onset of attention. It's got a fun and at times really sweet vibe to it. Plus, the art and expressions are wonderful and often just a mood altogether. But with those out of the way, we can get to the ones that are currently in the physical magazine. That if you walked into a Japanese konbini tomorrow to pick up an issue, you'd find them within its pages. Plus One Piece, of course, but we already covered that. Starting though with the currently third oldest series in Jump, Me and Roboco. It's one of the resident gag series that likes to break the fourth wall and can often reference other Shueisha properties, but it's also got a real degree of positivity and legitimate character beats
like
to
even I know about this one. You know, this is just like a old tale. Like, you know, you heard about manga, you know about this one
that you might not expect. The aforementioned references are also so sincere that you can tell mangaka Shuhei Miyazaki has a real respect for what he's referencing, which is just great to see. And that also extends to Roboco's volume covers, with each being a direct homage or parody of another series, and not
that's
always
cool. I did not know that. That's cool as shit.
Exclusive to Jump. Kind of apt to have this be among the oldest properties in the magazine. Which brings us to Sakamoto Days by Yuto Suzuki, and one of the magazine's staple action series, especially after the departure of Jujutsu Kaisen and My Hero Academia. Early on, it did also have some slice-of-life trappings with a dash of comedy, but that has more or less been shed as it's gone on. Whether that's a good or bad thing is up to personal...
Oh, so that's why the first season of Sakamoto Days felt like that. It started like that in the manga, too. I thought I was tripping. I was like... Bro, like, I thought this was like a severe action-heavy, like, show or manga. But that makes sense. It started off like that, and as it gone on later, like, that started to disappear.
Taste, but I do honestly kind of miss it. The chapter where Sakamoto takes his wife on a date and has to protect her is one of my favorites from the series' early days. It also just received an anime adaptation, making it one of the latest Jump series to get one, and it would have kept that title if not for Witch Watches starting up this spring. And speaking of which, we are actually quickly running out of manga in Jump that currently do have an anime out or announced.
Yeah,
at time of recording, this is where we stand. And
that's crazy, right? Like, that is that not like half? Nah, it's not half, but it's a lot.
This will no doubt change in the not-too-distant future. The overall ratio does give us another metric by which to gauge how new a lot of current Jump still is. Next up, we have the Elusive Samurai, and I'm actually going to pull in the aforementioned Witch Watch as well because they were a part of the same serialization round. That isn't anything crazy significant on its face, but these are two series from Jump veterans with previously successful manga. Meanwhile, the other two series that came out alongside them, I Tell C and Nine Dragons Ball Parade, both by much newer mangaka, flopped pretty hard.
Damn.
You might think that's a no-brainer, but past success doesn't always mean fans are gonna flock to a new series. We saw that when Kishimoto tried a foray into the sci-fi genre with Samurai 8. It didn't even last a year despite being written by the mangaka of Naruto. And we'll see even more examples.
Bro, I remember hearing about that too. I remember hearing about Samurai 8 and then never hearing a word of that ever again.
Later on, of clout not exactly carrying over. All that's to say, I do think it's noteworthy that both veterans came out on top this batch with two very different series. The Elusive Samurai by Yusei Matsui is a fun bit of Japanese historical fiction, and even if
it's crazy, like, I feel like the Elusive Samurai got a good adaptation, but like, I don't know, it wasn't like my type of story. I wasn't really fucking with it.
I'm not fully caught up with it, the artwork is great, and some of the color pages can be beyond.
But hopefully they keep on giving, like, these Jump magazines good adaptations. Like, I seen the Witch Watch adaptation, it's pretty good too. So hopefully they stay on that road.
You've also likely heard at least one of the other series he's been responsible for, Assassination Classroom. Meanwhile, Witch Watch by Kenta Shinohara is a pretty goofy, magical slice-of-life comedy with a dash of romance thrown in for good measure. It can often take a conflict or spell of the week approach with some of the more comedic chapters, but then all of a sudden slip into a very serious plot-filled arc, making for a unique reading experience to say the least. Also, this is just my opinion, but I think its covers are some of the best currently in Jump with how vibrant they are. And while both of these series had pretty strong starts, enough certainly to keep them around, the momentum has admittedly slowed in terms of sales. Elusive Samurai didn't see a crazy bump from its anime adaptation, and time will tell if...
I mean, I know I'm not crazy. Bro.
The same will be true for Witch Watch. That said, it's not like the editors are going to be rushing either out of the door. And that brings us to Blue Box.
My go Blue Box. I hope y'all doing good in the manga department, because you my goat for real.
What can I really say about it that I haven't already? If you know me, then you know I've been following this manga since literally before it was serialized. Back when it was just a one-shot in 2020 that I called by its Japanese name, Ao no Hako. And that hype was not isolated to me, because this was one of the best received one-shots of that year, and that enthusiasm carried over to when it became a series proper. As a result, sales started pretty strong and have stayed consistent.
Hey, that's what I like to see. That's what I like to see, my girl.
Anime is giving it a little boost too, but it's a unique mix of sports and romance that can lean into one or the other depending on the arc. And since Haikyuu ended, it's also been the only long-running sports presence in the magazine, which is kind of wild considering, well, I do like that element. The real strength is in the romance.
Though.
But the art
I'm pretty sure it's obvious. Like, it's more of a romance than it is a sports story.
Amazing. Koji Miura is one of my favorite artists in Jump right now, and the character work is second to none. I definitely recommend giving its anime or manga a try if it feels at your speed.
I second that. That's my goat right there. I second that.
Direct recommendations thus far, but as we get to perhaps lesser known titles, that'll change. And
from here on out, I don't know a single one of these except for Kagurabachi. So all of these are going to be new for me.
A moment too soon as we move to Akane Banashi, written by Yuki Suenaga and illustrated by Takamasa Moe. Without a doubt, it is one of my favorite series currently in Shounen Jump. I've already made an entire video singing its praises that you should check out if you haven't, but if you want the abridged rundown, it's a story steeped in Rakugo, the historical Japanese art of storytelling, and follows Akane in her quest to avenge what she sees as her dad's unjust expulsion from the art form. That is just chapter 1, mind you, and it is endlessly compelling to see her make her way through this world with some truly great expression work both during and outside performances. I'd also say that if you feel a little hesitant to try this out because of how intertwined it is with an art form you probably don't know a ton about, as someone who also went in with knowing basically nothing, you can enjoy it regardless of your experience with the art form. Just don't let that be what keeps you from reading one of the best series Jump has to offer right now.
That's a crazy claim, though. One of the best series Jump has to offer right now. I mean, that's a claim. I don't know much about it because I don't know how good these other ones are, but that's a claim.
Up is Kill Blue, and we have another one of those series by a returning Jump veteran, Tadatoshi Fujimaki, who's responsible for Kuroko no Basket and briefly the golf manga Robot X Laserbeam. Their latest foray into Weekly Shonen Jump is about a hitman who ends up getting unwittingly turned into a middle schooler via genetic shenanigans. So it's kinda like Sakamoto Days meets Detective Conan, though to be honest that comparison feels a bit inaccurate since
he really does like his high school characters, that ass.
It's mainly using the school setting and young hitman angle to set up unique set pieces for the action. It's also not without its share of comedy and wackier antagonists who end up as recurring characters more often than not. Plus, you also just have the situational humor that is Ogami being a middle-aged man in a much younger body and kind of dealing with that, obviously. It's also about to hit the 100 chapter mark, so it's been successful enough to stick around for this long.
I mean, this looks solid. This looked like one of those, if it got animated, it would do solid. It probably wouldn't do anything crazy unless it had some crazy fight scenes or something. But it looked like it would do very solid. It might get multiple seasons, one of those anime.
If I had to bet on it, we probably will see an anime announcement in the not too distant future. So while I haven't seen a ton of discussion around it personally, that could change with a decent adaptation. Following that though, and finishing off the second to last shelf, we have Nue's Exorcist by Kota Kawe, and legitimately...
This looks like my type of shit right here, dead ass. This, like, just off the cover, if I was walking through a store and I was looking at manga covers, this one would catch my eye. This one and, like, the other one with the nigga with the cross in his hands. This one looked fire to me.
I think this is among the most underrated manga in the magazine. I'm sure some of you rolled your eyes at the mere mention of the word exorcist, since those series can sometimes be a dime a dozen, especially in recent years, but I think Nue does more than enough to set itself apart. The main character Gakuro finds himself making a pact with the titular spirit Nue that leads to him getting involved with the larger world of exorcists as he strives to get stronger to protect others. Sounds like your standard shonen affair, but I think Gakuro's sincerity is really what elevates things. There's just an undeniably earnest energy that makes it an enjoyable read. Plus the art, especially during the action scenes, is
that is... This frame right here, or not this frame, this panel is clean. Holy.
Real, and it allows the manga to bring in a darker edge to balance out the more comedic and lighter moments. I could absolutely see it getting more attention with a decent anime.
Hollow Weapon release, like, we gotta get more uniquer with these like transformations and shit.
Adaptation. And yeah, consider that another recommendation from me. I definitely think you should check this one out. But from one magic battle shonen, we move on to another. You know it, you've memed it, the sensation that is Kagurabachi.
I can't wait for Kagurabachi. I don't know, this Kagurabachi is like, if there was a story for me, I would fuck with Kagurabachi. And I don't want to read it because, like, I'm just waiting to see if they get an anime and if it does it justice. And if it doesn't, I'll read it then.
Sure, Takeru Hokazono could have predicted the trajectory of his first Jump series, with the international crowd memeing the hell out of it before Chapter 1 even dropped, only to develop into a hype and emotionally resonant action series that is already selling over 100,000 copies per volume. The story of Chihiro looking for revenge after his father was killed clearly has begun to strike a chord with a lot of people. The first couple arcs have been a lot of fun, with the latest one
I'll be seeing some of the panels, and he be low-key cooking. He be cooking with some of these panels.
Especially doing some really great character work for one of the arc's antagonists and his daughter. I'm being vague and leaving out names on purpose for reasons that
I like that.
Understand if
no
you've
spoilage,
read the
I
series.
love that.
Overall, it has some really great stuff to offer, and I think in the long run, Kagurabachi genuinely has a chance to live up to that level of artificial hype it had internationally before anyone knew what it was going to be. And as someone who was not really...
Look, I feel like if it gets a good animation studio, it could get carried off the fights alone. I heard that it got a lot of like story, like some good story in there, weaved in there too. But like if it get a good studio, it could get carried off the fights alone. Dead ass. I seen some of them panels. They be looking crazy, man.
Really a fan of it at the start, at least juxtaposed with what else was serialized alongside it. I'm happy the one that survived turned out to be this good. And with that, we move on to what are really the newest series in Jump.
Okay,
like ones that have been around for about 50 chapters or more. Starting with Super Psychic Policeman Chojo. It's a series that I've only read a bit, but is primarily a comedic series following, well, a super psychic policeman named Chojo. I guess mangaka Shun Numa gets points for having probably the most descriptive title in Jump. But the series follows Chojo and his colorful cast of co-workers' misadventures, with gags that are sometimes referential, but also often...
I see the Yu-Gi-Oh one.
Very grounded in aspects of the characters. It's not just throwing everything at the wall to see what sticks. It's used as a foil to find out more about the characters in question, so that definitely gives it more weight.
I don't know, like comedy mangas and animes really don't be hitting for me like that. But like, it's if you have a hit comedy, you got you a hit anime. That's like one of those genres where like, you know, if they fuck with the characters and the comedy and that goes on in the show or slash the manga, you're gonna have a well-received anime most likely
than your average gag series. And it works well opposite Roboco to that end, with one being that more referential humor, and the other, as I said, being a lot more character-oriented. Naturally, though, with it being a comedy, your mileage is still likely to vary, so I'd say give it a volume, and if it makes you chuckle more often than not, it's worth keeping up with. But that brings us to Astro Royale, one of the more...
This gotta... Bro, please tell me this is a nigga that made Tokyo Revengers, because if it's not, I'm gonna lose my mind. This nigga look bar for bar like a nigga from Tokyo Revengers.
Interesting series among newer serializations, simply because of its author, Tokyo Revengers mangaka.
Okay, I know I wasn't tripping. Thank the Lord. Thank the Lord I wasn't tripping.
Ken Wakui. It's significant because Tokyo Revengers ran in Weekly Shounen Magazine, which is run by a separate publisher from Shounen Jump, Kodansha and then Shueisha respectively. Now, that's not unheard of. Previously mentioned mangaka Koji Miura also had a serialization in Weekly Shounen Magazine before Blue Box, but considering how big Tokyo Revengers got, 80 million copies in circulation, this definitely feels more significant. Like a, hey, how about you come do that for us kind of deal.
Oh, so he switched up, basically.
Days, all things considered, it's done just enough to avoid being axed. The Supernatural Yakuza series with a pinch of the post-apocalypse seems like it'd be a slam dunk just from premise alone, and I can't really tell you why it hasn't been more successful. Maybe it lies in the fact that it's just been very standard playing things.
I'm not gonna lie, like the panels that I see already don't look that crazy.
Things very straight. There's not an interesting wrinkle that makes it a naturally more compelling read. That's not necessarily a failure as it is just something that's absent. Certainly compared to Tokyo Revengers and the time travel element. We'll see what will happen with it, but this does present a kind of turning point with this series and beyond, where how quote-unquote safe they are is a little in question. You could kind of loop in shoujo with that as well, but gag series historically get a bit of a longer leash unless they're just completely dead on arrival. And while something like Astro Royale isn't going to just be axed out of nowhere, it's possible it gets a soft axe in the sense of editorial kinda telling them to wrap the story up. That's just kind of the reality of Shonen Jump, and it's why a lot of this top row might not be on the shelf by this time next year.
Damn, that's crazy,
or
man.
Maybe even this time next week. Hi everyone, editing Logan. So, as I kind of predicted, in the process of making this, it did get announced that we are getting a batch of 2 new Jump series, and Astro Royale does look like it could be one of the ones on the way out.
Damn,
so, I know I said this video
it's quick out here in Shonen Jump.
But I'm not mad, it's just...
I'm not gonna last a week with this heat, dog. 102 degrees in my car. Damn, nigga, you sound like you live in Texas, boy. That's a normal thing over here, boy. Bro, my AC went out my car recently. Oh my god, bro, them ride homes are torturous. Them rides home are torturous, boy. But you know, I kind of got used to it because I've lived in like hot climates my whole life, so it's not that bad. But yeah, if you're not used to them high temps, if you like new to Texas, good luck. That first summer is gonna be treacherous, boy. That first summer gonna be treacherous.
Shonen Jump gonna Shonen Jump. So that's why as we continue, we'll be talking a bit more about each series' current outlook. So then, let's look at Ultimate Exorcist Kyoshi by Soichi Usui.
It's another Exorcist? Damn, maybe I'm just like an Exorcist nigga. How the 2 ones that I liked both about Exorcists? That's crazy.
It's our second Exorcist series and has a pretty different vibe from the aforementioned New A's Exorcist, with the titular Kyoshi being incredibly overpowered and, at least in the first chapter, the main thing holding him back being his own fear. Though he learns to surmount...
I'm fucking with these panels. These panels looking kind of clean.
That, and the series becomes an enjoyable, pretty zany battle shonen in its own right that is able to leverage its more cartoony art style to great effect. The action overall is insanely readable in part due to this. Also, the cast is all around pretty fun. Kyoshi has this ongoing rivalry with another exorcist, Hitsuji.
Sosuke.
And it just has a very playful, even friendly edge to it. Now, the elephant in the room for the series is that the sales haven't been amazing. They trended slightly upwards with Volume 2, and it is still getting color pages, which is a sign editorial is trying to give it at least some push. I think it's just gonna take other series failing harder and faster for it to stick around. Next up, we have Himaten from Genki Ono, one of the other rom-coms currently running in the magazine alongside Blue Box, Witch Watch, and Sidcraft, which we'll get to in a bit. Though I use the term rom-com more loosely for Blue Box, of course, because, as we've discussed, it cuts a lot more closely to a pure romance that just happens to have comedic elements. Himaten is a lot closer to what Jump has historically had with your series like Nisekoi or We Never Learn, i.e. lots of potential love interests trying to win the affection of the main character.
Sound like a skip to me,
So you'll have one you want to root for. So if that's your speed, you're getting what you'd expect. Though there are minimal misunderstandings, which I think is always nice for a rom-com to have. The main guy, Iamori, also likes to clean, so that's kinda unique. It also helps that I don't think it's really competing for Blue Box's audience, since it does offer something fundamentally different. Sales have been overall okay thus far, and with rom-coms or series with romantic elements in general taking up more and more space in the magazine, that means Hima 10 seems to be doing well enough to ride that wave to a moderate amount of success so far. We'll have to see if it continues that upward trend. Speaking of upward trend though, if there is a series on this top shelf that is safe, well, other than Kagurabachi, it's Ichi the Witch. The first series we've gotten with two people at the helm, written by Osamu Nishi, the mangaka behind Welcome to Demon School Iruma-kun, and illustrated by...
He switched up for real. He switched up. He went from like a comedy to I don't know what this is, so let me not say it.
Shiro Usazaki, who was previously in Shonen Jump doing the art for Actage. It's also notably the first time in Jump's history that a writing and illustrating pair have both been women, though that's far from the
it's a her. Oh, my bad. She switched up. And actually, that makes sense if you watched that anime or the other one.
Thing that makes this manga special. The series is set in a world where only women are able to use magic. Asterisk.
Okay, that's interesting.
With that asterisk being the...
Oh, there's a guy that can use magic.
Titular Ichi, the world's first male witch. From there, it...
Wasn't interesting though, since the girl I liked was the childhood friend, so I didn't even try.
Evolves into a thoroughly charming...
Yeah, you know she not getting cooked. Wrap it up.
Ichi becomes enthralled by this world of magic and takes to it with an unbridled enthusiasm that...
Okay, so what I'm seeing, a male character in a world of straight only girl characters.
...is frankly infectious. Not to mention a solid and entertaining supporting cast. It's just a very well-crafted manga, and the numbers speak to that. Sales have been incredibly good, especially in this...
Whoa, do I see a black character? Hold on, this one might be interesting. We don't see a lot of those.
Current era of Jump, and it's already gotten 2 covers after its debut, less than a year into its run, which, if nothing else, signals a desire for Jump's editorial to push this manga.
I like what I see, but you know, we're gonna have to see it. You know, what is the story like? I didn't get a lot about what the story was about.
Go like crazy. All signs are looking good, if not great, for Ichi going forward. I think I can safely recommend this one without you having to worry about it going anywhere anytime soon. That brings us to Shinobi Undercover, which also happens to be by
Shinobi Undercover. This could either be a banger or a flop. There's no in between.
By a duo, with it being written by Ippon Takaguchi and illustrated by Santa Mitarashi. It's a school-focused ninja series, with the main character Yodoka, who is by all accounts socially...
People were glazing her. I mean, she looked like she deserved some glaze. That's all I'm gonna say. She looked like she deserved some glaze. That ass.
Anxious, and has to combat that when he ends up befriending the person he's been charged with protecting, Aoi Mukai. But at the same time, she isn't supposed to know he's protecting her, so that's where the ninja element comes in. With the action set pieces happening, while she stays none the wiser. That helps to provide some innate tension and stakes to even the most basic confrontations without having to necessarily go overboard with it. And the reception for Shinobi seems to be fairly positive. Nothing necessarily on the level of other series I'd consider quote-unquote safe, but it doesn't seem like it'd be the first one out the door when editorial decides to add something next. Plus, pretty consistent color pages and a decent table of contents placement within the magazine for newer series signals at least some level of confidence on that front. Following that, we have Sidcraft Love as a Mystery, from We Never Learn mangaka Taishi Tsutsui. It's partially a rom-com, so territory he's familiar with, mixed with some mystery elements that, perhaps unsurprisingly, revolve around love in some way, shape, or form.
Which one? The ninja one? Yeah, that ninja one sounds kind of solid. It sounds like you know, it could be really a hit. It just depends on like what they do story wise and like how the fights pan out.
All well, the great detective, the titular Sidcraft, wants nothing more than to experience romance himself. It's a pretty fun setup for this kind of series, with the setting allowing for the supporting cast of female characters around our MC to fill out more interesting niches than they might in a school environment, like an inspector for the police force or famed cat burglar to name a few. It also allows for what has been some fun set pieces thus far. The mysteries themselves can kinda be hit or miss, but you're really not here for them. I think Tsutsui knows exactly what kind of series he wants to make, and given his success with the genre, it makes perfect sense. Its first volume just came out at the time of writing, so we'll see how his efforts are being received. And that brings us to the penultimate series we will be covering, Jump's second newest, the soccer manga, Embers. Written by Kei Kuramazaki and illustrated...
I'm not gonna lie, this cover looked like this could be some heat. It's obviously about some type of sports. It looked like it's about some type of sports. Just guessing. I never finished We Never Learn, and I never will because of what the author pulled for the ending, so I will not check this one out. Damn, that nigga scarred you?
Created by Sotaro
He
Nishi,
scarred
who was
you?
actually previously an assistant on the popular soccer manga Blue Lock. So they're in their wheelhouse, and
So
I
they
think it
both
definitely
sports?
shows
Was
as
alright.
we explore the story of Haitani embracing the sport for the first time and coming to love it.
No, it's not soccer. It's football. It's football.
Jump has had kind of a tumultuous relationship with sports series since Haikyuu ended in 2020. I actually want to make a whole video about that. So we'll see if Embers can buck the trend of pure sports series striking out before they can really get going. I personally think it's got all the pieces necessary, and
that panel was fire. Hold on, that panel was fire.
Haitani is taking a primarily defensive role provides a nice wrinkle for the presentation of games. Now, that said, its earliest signs aren't the best, but it'll be a little bit before its first volume is...
See, like, it's like, why would you even want to go into the space of Blue Lock, though? Like, I would have just picked a different sport. Like, we ain't got a good basketball in a second. We ain't got a good basketball one in a second. I know it's Japan, but it's like, let's try out some American football. You know, let's try out something else, bro. Like, why would we go to soccer/football? Like, it's like I don't see it, bro. Like, you really gotta drop a banger for this one to hit, in my opinion. Alternate ending for each girl, bro. What was the point? Ew, he did that. He did that. That's ew. I don't. Ew. That's disgusting.
So it's definitely too early to say anything one way or another. A color page would go a long way to assuage worries, though. And so, at long last, we come to the latest series to start in Jump, Star of Beethoven by Morihiro Hayashi.
Why he put the Beethoven piano in the background? Oh, is it actually about some piano shit? Okay, never mind. That's why he put the Beethoven piano in the background.
The magazine has delved into piano, with P6 from a few years back also tackling the subject matter and being, in all honesty, pretty underrated. But Star of Beethoven revolves around Ichiro Yaso being dragged back into the world of music he left behind by...
I love some music. I love some music stories. You know, I can't get into that one big music one, the girl one. There's a big music one. If you know which one I'm talking about, you know which one I'm talking about. They play like a weird instrument. They got like 4 seasons. I know that one's pretty big. It always has good ratings. I don't really mess with that one. I feel like we haven't really had a good one in a second. So like, I could use a good one. I could use a good one. Deadass. Talk to me.
None other than Beethoven himself. Not the ghost of Beethoven, but full flesh and blood man who's seemingly been transported to modern Japan from his deathbed in 19th century Austria. It's wacky to say the least, and if that premise feels like it might sound familiar, you may be thinking of your boy Kong Ming, which also revolves around a historical figure being transported from their deathbed to modern Japan, only to end up helping somebody with their music career. And Star of Beethoven definitely bets big on the zaniness of its premise, and that comes through in the presentation with the performances, particularly by Beethoven himself, being nothing if not intense from a visual standpoint.
Bro, can you imagine how hard this would go if it was animated? Like, this is the type of anime that would give me some chills. Deadass. Like, a Beethoven song with some crazy animation, that shit would give me some chills.
Like Embers, the early signs for it aren't amazing, but it's still too early to tell with any degree of certainty what its future is going to be. And that brings us to the end of our brief 25-minute look at Shonen Jump in 2025. As I said at the outset, this is going to...
Look, I feel like there's some solid potential in here. Like, I know Shonen Jump is very volatile where it comes where like new manga come in and newer ones get axed. I know it's very volatile. So hopefully we'll see some of these actually get adapted in the future. I feel like we will definitely hear some of these get adapted in the next year, but we'll see. You know, I mean, I feel like this is a solid jump, but you know, like Japan is different from what, you know, everyone else likes. You know, Japan really kind of controls what is popular more than like the rest of the world. Can you go back to the spy one? I forgot the name. You mean the ninja one? It's this one. Shinobi Undercover. This one right here. Yeah. This was the only spy one, so this one gotta be. It's a Shinobi one. Shinobi Undercover. But yeah, no, that was That was a solid video and very educational. I can always fuck with some videos like this. Deadass. Great video. Taser Lad. Great video. I really am hoping to see some of those in the future. Deadass hoping to see some of those in the future. So you like the video? You'll like this one too. Go ahead and click on that. Yeah. You're still here? So you don't fuck with me? Alright, I'ma just